Dr. José Rizal was a Filipino nationalist and is regarded as one of the most significant figures in Philippine history. As you can see from these statues, he's renowned as a leader throughout the world. Born to a well-to-do family in 1861, he demonstrated an early aptitude for academics. In 1872, when Rizal was 11 years old, three Filipino priests, Mariano Gomez, Jose Burgos, and Jacinto Zamora, collectively known as Gumburza, became symbols of the fight against colonial oppression during the Spanish regime. This statue outside of the Fine Arts Museum commemorates their death. I had read that this incident had a huge impact on the young Rizal, and I couldn't understand that until I realized that he had completed a bachelor's degree by the age of 15. By the age of 22, Rizal had already been studying medicine and other subjects in Europe. Rizal is often described as a polymath, which is a person who has expertise in many areas. You can see from that self-portrait, these sculptures, and other things that he have done that he was a brilliant artist in addition to being a brilliant academician. He is perhaps mostly known for his writing, but as you can see from this sculpture, he also expressed his nationalistic ideas through art. But his first major written work, a novel entitled Noli Me Tangere, based on John 9:17, was published in 1887 in Berlin. The novel, somewhat autobiographical, tells the story of Juan Ibarra, a young man who returns to the Philippines after studying in Europe. He's overwhelmed by the ignorance, superstition, and particularly oppression of the colonial authorities and the clergy, but his answer is to try to build a school and educate the populace. One character, Elias, has conversations with Ibarra, and Elias actually is in favor of violent takeover, which Ibarra totally rejects. Education emerges as a crucial theme in Noli Me Tangere. Rizal believed that education was the key to social reform, and through Ibarra's dream of establishing a school, Rizal kind of illustrated his own desires for how to facilitate change. We see a lot of this discussion between Ibarra and Elias in chapters 50 and 51, which I found absolutely fascinating. I also believe chapter 26, where Ibarra talks with the philosopher, fabulous conversation, exposes a lot of Rizal's thinking. In 1890, Rizal finishes his second famous work, El Filibusterismo, with the subtitle The Reign of Greed, which is a sequel to Noli Me Tangere. Rizal dedicated this book to Gumburza, stating, "I have the right to dedicate my work to you as to victims of the evil I am trying to fight." In this sequel to Noli Me Tangere, Ibarra reemerges as Simone, who is very different than Ibarra in the way that he wants to approach change. But even so, the book still continues to advocate for change through education, not through violence. When I finish this historical section, we'll take a deeper dive into some quotes from the books that really help to understand Rizal's political positions. The books created a huge sensation with the Spanish government, and ultimately Rizal was charged with treason, sedition, and forming illegal societies and placed in the dungeon at Fort Santiago. It was argued that he was responsible for the deeds of those who read his writings. On the evening that he found out that he was to die, he wrote a poem that was called My Last Thought, and he hid it in an alcohol lamp. My Last Thought by Dr. José Rizal. Farewell, beloved fatherland, thou sunny clime of ours, pearl of the Orient Ocean, our lost paradise. For thee my life I give, nor mourn its Saturn hours. And wert more bright, strewn less with thorns and more flowers, for thee I still would give it, a welcome sacrifice. Then on December 26th, he was formally condemned to death by a Spanish court. On December 30th, the morning when he was to be executed, he was married to Josephine Bracken in his cell, although there is some controversy about whether this actually occurred or not. While imprisoned at Fort Santiago, he issued a declaration saying that the education of Filipinos and their achievement of a national identity were the prerequisites to freedom. But on December 30th at 7:30 a.m., at age 35 years old, he was shot and buried in a secret grave. He was buried in Paco Cemetery, and a simple cross inscribed with December 30th, 1896 marked the spot. On December 30th, 1912, his ashes were transferred to the Rizal Mausoleum, where they remain today. When I heard about these two books, I knew I had to get them and read them, and was so delighted to find English versions in Manila. So I thought I'd leave you with a few quotes which helped me to get a better understanding of Rizal's brilliance and his passion for his country. The first, from Noli Me Tangere, is Ibarra's counter to Elias's call for violence.
In addressing Elias, Ibarra says, "Never, I will never be the one to lead the multitude to obtain by force what the government believes to be untimely. No, and if I ever came to see that multitude rise up in arms, I will place myself by the side of the government, and I will fight them, because in that mob I would not see my country. I desire its good. That is why I'm putting up a school. I will seek for that good by means of instruction, by progressive advancement. Without light, there is no way."
Then from El Filibusterismo, these are Simon's words as he's dying.
On his deathbed, these are Simon's final words. "To suffer? To work?" repeated the wounded man with bitterness. "Ah, it's easy to say that when one does not suffer, when the work is rewarded. If your God demands from man such sacrifices, the man who can hardly count with the present and doubts tomorrow, if you have seen what I have, miserable creatures, unfortunate, suffering, indestructible tortures for crimes they had not committed, murder to cover other faults, or incapacities, poor fathers of families dragged from their homes to work uselessly on the roads which are destroyed each morning, and seem only meant to sink their families into misery. Ah, suffer, work, is the will of God? Convince those that their murder is their salvation, that their work is the prosperity of their homes. To suffer, to work? What God is this?"
But Rizal doesn't leave it there. He uses Padre Florentino's words to counter Simon's bitterness.
In the meantime, while the Filipino people may not have sufficient energy to proclaim, with head high and chest bared, their rights to social life, and to guarantee it with their sacrifice with their own blood, while we see our own countrymen in private life feeling shame within themselves, to hear roaring the voice of conscience, which rebels and protests, and in public life keeps silent, to make a chorus with him who abuses to mock the abused, while we see them enclosed in their own selfishness, praising the most iniquitous deeds with forced smiles, begging with their eyes for a portion of the booty, why give them freedom? With Spain and without Spain, they would always be the same, and perhaps worse. Why independence if the slaves of today will be the tyrants of tomorrow? And they would be, without doubt, because he loves tyranny who submits to it. Senor Simon, while our people may not be prepared, while they may go to battle beguiled or forced, without a clear understanding of what they have to do, the wisest attempts will fail, and it's better that they fail, because why commit the wife to the husband if he does not sufficiently love her, if he is not ready to die for her?
This statement is so moving, so powerful, so decisive, and it seems to encapsulate Rizal's thinking.
Rizal contemporary and Spanish biographer Wenceslao Retana, author of Vida y Escritos del Dr. José Rizal, a one-time critic who became an admirer, states the following about Padre Florentino's previous statement. This paragraph is the most important part of the book. This, the reader will recognize, summarizes in a few lines all the political thought of Rizal. Truly a great nationalist, but an enemy of separatism and, above all, obtaining independence by force.
The courage and the brilliance of Dr. José Rizal cannot be overstated. He deliberately entered into the fray with a conversation about how to move the Philippines forward. And in that conversation, in that debate that he housed within his books, he came away with a peaceful solution, saying the Philippines will only improve through education. It is absolutely appropriate that every December 30th, his life be remembered and his contributions celebrated. Thank you so very much for watching this video.